You're listening to the Dibbly Dobbly podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram.
Hi, my name is Roy Young. I'm the president of the Belize National Cricket Association. I have been the president for the last 5.5 years. You are John?
Yes, my name is John Gillett, and I am the Vice President of the Belize National Cricket Association. This is our second term of 3 years, and we are the body responsible for administering cricket within Belize.
You are listening to the Dibbly podcast.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Dibbly Dobbly podcast. And on the podcast, we have started a new series on the podcast looking at associate nations within cricket and how they are developing the game in their country. Many of us cricket fans know so much about the established cricketing countries and not enough on the associate nations who play cricket. So it would be nice to learn more about those associate countries, and via the podcast, people can learn more as well. For today's Associate Cricket Series episode, we are discussing all things Belize cricket, and joining me to discuss and talk all things Belize cricket is the president of the Belize National Cricket Association, Dr. Roy Young, and John Gillett, the vice president of the Belize National Cricket Association. Roy and John, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, it's great to have you here, Roy and John. Good to have you on to talk about cricket in Belize, because many of our listeners and watchers of the podcast may not know a lot about cricket in Belize. An island country in the Americas, wouldn't associate cricket, but seeing that Belize is a part of the Commonwealth and all Commonwealth countries play cricket, so there is a connection there with the game in Belize when it comes to cricket. So it will be interesting to hear your insights and your perspectives on the game of cricket in Belize and what you're doing, Roy, as the president and John as the vice president, on promoting the game in Belize and making sure that the people of Belize enjoy this great game as many people around the world do. So it'll be fascinating to hear your insights in this interview with me today. And I'm sure people listening as well will be learning more and wanting to learn more about cricket in Belize. Before we do that, Roy and John, as I do with all my guests that I've interviewed on the podcast, I'd like to take them back to when they first got into cricket. It's been very fascinating listening to people's memories on how they started to get into cricket. So Roy and John, let's go back to the very beginning, growing up. What were your earliest memories of watching, playing, and even going to the cricket? And who were some of your cricketing idols that you looked up to when growing up? So, Roy, if you would like to answer that first.
Yeah, when I was growing up, we were mainly idolizing the local cricketers. And one of my person that I tried to emulate was Dave Joseph. He was a very good batter and bowler, and he's known throughout the cricket world in Belize. And then I was exposed to Sir Garfield Sobers. So he came to Belize and he did some training, and so he became one of my person that I idolized. So those were my main persons.
Yeah. Sir Garfield Sobers is definitely an idol that you want to look up to. He's a very fine cricketer. John, your memories?
Yeah, well, I grew up in the village of Crooked Tree, which has been a traditional cricket village, and as far as I can remember, and that stretched for over 6 decades. cricket has always been played in this village at a competitive level. I can remember some of the older guys who used to play cricket, and people I used to admire a lot are guys like Lingsford, Gillett, Charles Adolphus. I used to look at at these guys, like for example, Selvin Nicholson, Robert Tillett. All of these guys, they were very very good bowlers, and and the good batsmen that I used to look at, guys like James Rayburn, Winfield Tillett, as well Gillett, and these guys, they were exceptional batsmen.
Yeah. And you have memories of playing the game yourself, John, as a kid?
Of course, I started to play the game. I started to play the game maybe when I was 4 or 5 years old, and I played in the game competitively until I broke my ankle back in 1994, and I had to cease playing then.
Yeah. You still go and watch the games?
Of course, as long as there's a game around my area, I would never miss the opportunity of going out there unless it's something very very urgent. And
Yeah.
even when games are not being played there, I go to the other villages and look at the games. Since we have 2 levels of games being played here in Belize, you can select which of the games you want to go and look at.
Yeah. That's great to hear. Roy, your memories as a kid growing up playing cricket?
Yes,
what do you remember those times?
I played in high school and competitively. We also played in primary school, and then moving on to high school, we played. I played in high school, and then we played at the village level and at the national level. And then I became too old to play very competitively, so we decided to then be a part of the organizing of cricket in Belize. So that's when we became the part of the Belize National Cricket Association.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Your memories of playing as a kid. Excuse me.
But even up to last year or a couple of years ago, I played in the over 50 tournament. So we try to keep the sport alive among the older folks, and so we organize a over 50 years old tournament. So I wanted to play this year, but because we had the investors in Belize, and I had to be around with them, I didn't play, but I wanted to play.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic to hear that, Roy, that you're still playing the game in your older years and still being a part of it, of course. So it's just, I suppose it's the thing with cricket, isn't it, Roy and John, that everyone has a different path into the game and fall in love with it differently. So it was very interesting to hear your interactions with the game from a young age, and even now being a part of the association in Belize, wanting it to prosper and develop and be the best it can be. And it's good to see that you have passionate people behind the scenes as well. And no doubt we'll talk about that a bit more in our chat today.
Yeah, at one point I used to admire John playing, because at some point I was engaged a lot in school, and I wasn't playing, and I saw John and one of my friends who is from John's village to Hildebrandt. We went to school together, and so I was always admiring them when they were playing too.
Yeah, fantastic to hear that. And John, would you like to add anything to what Roy has said, or?
Yes, well, like what I told you there, I have played for many years. I think I started to play cricket competitively because I also had a period in England, and over that 3 year period that I was there, I played cricket. I played cricket on a team by the name of Hornchurch, and we did pretty well. It was a second division team, and since I came back, I have played with the brilliant cricket team. I have played with the Belize Sugar Industries cricket team, and I even played for the national team once against Mexico.
Wow, that's really good to hear that, John. Did you enjoy playing cricket in England? It's very different to
Of
playing in
course, of
Belize.
course. In that, it was a little too cold when I was playing then, and the wind was always blowing. But I enjoyed it quite a bit,
Yeah,
and it's every Saturday we used to play.
yeah, fantastic. That's fantastic to hear. Roy, have you played any cricket overseas or just in Belize only?
Yeah, I played, but it was not like overseas representing Belize. I played when I was going to school in Cornell, upstate New York. So it was um, Cornell playing against some other school, but that was the extent of my international playing.
Yeah, fantastic to hear that, Roy, and John as well. Your experiences with the game, I think many people can relate to that as well. How they got into the game and how they started playing it, and you still have that passion and enthusiasm for the game, even though you may be getting a little bit older and things are starting to slow down a bit. You can't play as much as you used to, but being a part of it still is a good way to stay involved in the game and give something back as well,
Yeah,
and make the game better in Belize, which is fantastic. So wonderful to hear about your cricketing journey, how that all started, and what it is today. So thank you for sharing that, guys. Really appreciate that. I thought to start this interview, Roy and John, on Belize cricket. Let's talk about the history of cricket in Belize, because you can learn a lot about cricket from its history. And the history of cricket in Belize is quite interesting from the research I've done. And obviously, Roy and John, you've lived through that history as well. You've seen how it's grown and developed over the years. So Roy and John, give us a brief overview on the history of cricket in Belize. How did it all start?
You want me to go first, Roy?
yeah, John.
Well, Belize has been a British colony, and what happened? We had a lot of expat here in Belize, and they developed the sport. And at one time, cricket used to be played almost in every district in Belize. I can recall cricket being played there in Corozal. I can remember in Orange Walk in Belize district, in Cayo, in Stan Creek. I am not sure if Punta Gorda has ever played cricket, but that is the way cricket was developed here in Belize. And although some of the other areas have stopped playing cricket, cricket is predominantly played in the Belize district, uh, at almost all of the villages in the Belize district, and that continue up to this very moment. And I think it's it's um it's on the upward move again, and being on the upward move, a lot of villages are getting interested with taking it into the schools and into and into different. They under 15 and under 19. We're taking it there, and I think we have a very, very good future for cricket here in Belize.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Roy, your thoughts on that? What John has said, and also a little bit about the history. Maybe tell us a little bit how the association got up and running in Belize as well.
Yeah, part of the history is when a team came to Belize, the Malaburn Cricket Club, MCC, visited in 1959-60. They had a turn. They had a tour of the West Indies, and from that time, and some people even said that cricket was played much earlier than that time in Belize. Um, Belize played its first international tournament around that time, um, and
Yeah,
in 20 in 2004, Belize also qualified in the ICC Americas Championship. So we have been moving steadily over the years, and so now we are very active in terms of playing in the region.
yeah, that's good to hear there, Roy. About the history of cricket in Belize and how that got up and running, I should say. Tell us about the association, the history behind that. When did that come into existence?
And it was done in 1997. Um, yeah, and the first president was Mr. Wade, Elson Wade, and he served. He had a long tenure. He served approximately 15 years. And then it was under his tenure too that Belize became an affiliate member of the ICC. Um, yeah, so we have been an affiliate member and then an associate member of the ICC.
Yeah, fantastic to hear that. How it all started, how it all began, and how cricket has this connection with Belize, and the history stems way back to the days of the British, of course, and now into these modern times. It's just fantastic to hear that, how it all started, how the association got started, and setting the foundation and the stepping stones to grow and develop the game in Belize. And you're doing a great job, both of you, Roy and John, at doing that. So thanks for sharing a little bit about the history of Belize. And I'm sure everyone watching and listening would learn more as well, and wanting to learn more about the game in Belize and learn more about its history and how it all began and how it all started, which is what cricket's all about. So that's fantastic.
In in 2006 too, we also hosted and won the first ever Central American Cricket Championship, which goes on to today. So Costa Rica is actually hosting it this year. We hosted it last year. So that started in 2006.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, it's brilliant to hear that. Brilliant that you're able to achieve good things and win particular types of tournaments. It's fantastic. Hoping many more to come as well for Belize in the near future. But as I said, just brilliant to hear your insights on the history of the game over there. And as I said, many people will learn a lot from listening to you to speak about it. And I've certainly learned a lot from just listening to you explain it. So that's fantastic. And a lot of people listening would feel the same as well.
I must say too that over the years the game has evolved where there have been some highs and some lows. So it's played in one. It's concentrated in one part of the country, in the Belize. Belize has 6 districts, and it's concentrated mainly in the Belize district. And it's specifically in the Belize district. It is in the Belize River Valley, and so what we are trying to do is to grow it to all the districts. And as John said earlier too, it was played in the south. It was actually played in Toledo. So it was played in all districts of the country at some point in time, because now that we are reaching out to the other parts of the country, people are recalling players and places and events in all the districts. So one of the strategy now is to try to reach out to some of those people who could bring some interest and some impetus to their location.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear that, Roy, and good to see many people around the country are taking up the sport, which is fantastic. That's what you want to see. You want to see a lot of people fall in love with the game and play the game and carry it on to their families as well, and children and their children and so on. So that's fantastic to hear that. Really good to hear that from you, Roy, and also a good overview on the history of the game in Belize. So thank you for that, guys. I thought, Roy and John, let's talk about the Belize national teams, the women's and the men's teams. Be good to gain your insights on the two teams and learn more about their achievements, the players' stories, because many of the players come from diverse backgrounds and they have different stories. And so it'd be good to gain your insights on the two teams and how they're tracking along. So, Roy and John, for those who may not know a lot about the Belize women's and men's teams, can you tell us more about them, the players, and some of their stories?
John, you want to go first?
No, you go ahead. You go first there, Doc.
Okay. All right. So we have the male team, which when we got in office, the first outing was um, the Central American Championship tournament in Mexico, where which we won, and then came COVID. So and then the other one was hosted by us, last year. We didn't do well in that tournament. We fielded 2 teams, and we we didn't do well. We came in third in that tournament. MCC had a team; they came in first, and Mexico came in second, and we were third. Um, in the outing that we had in Mexico, it was recognized that Belize has a lot of talent, and what we need to do is to coach those to pathways that will lead to high performance events. So that's one of the things that we we are trying to do now. Um, but on that outing too in Mexico, we had this, for example, a person who was not even 18. We took him because he came to practice, and he showed great interest, and he became he was very outstanding. He had the second best bowling average. He did he, he did exceptionally well. He is today our number one or top three bowlers in the country. His name is Garrett Banner Jr. So and we had some. That's a very fun memory because, and I spoke with the with the president of Mexico Cricket, Ben Owens, just in a conversation about a week ago, and he reminds me that there was this one young man from our team that hit some large six over the pavilion. So they were very impressed. So it shows that they still recall those things. You know?
Yeah.
So we had a good team. The average age was like 22. I think it was 22. Yeah, for that team that went out. So but one of the constraints that we have was to hold the team together because, as you were saying, people have different conditions. So a lot of the guys, in some cases, they don't work. They don't have a profession, and some of them are soldiers. Some of them are police, and some don't really don't have a job. So it's in some cases, and the logistics to bring people together is
Mm.
challenging at times, to bring them to practice and so on.
Yep.
So we have a good we have a good team, or we have, let me put it this way, we have players that could compete at the highest level, but they need to be coached,
Mm.
and it's an investment that needs to be made for that to really um, bring forth fruit.
Yep.
Yeah, you see, this is one of our greatest challenges that we have,
Mm.
whereby we cannot hold the team together. The teams they may be working at different establishments, and all that we will have to do, we we have to do our training maybe only on weekends. So
Yep.
that is one of the disadvantages that we have. So instead of training our guys on a daily basis, it is only on a weekend basis that we get the opportunity to do so. So that is indeed a hurdle that we will have to get over.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine how difficult that is to. Um,
Because yes, we do have talent. We do have quite a lot of talent, but you need the team to be together, practicing every day, so that they can develop all of the skills.
yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. But I suppose it's the same with all associate countries. They do have that problem of logistics and getting people together, and they're not professional. They have other jobs and their lives to live as well, and they play cricket on the side. Um, but it's good to hear that the team is talented. They've got some good skills. It's just about, as you said, Roy, the coaching and trying to drum in the skills and the fundamentals of the game to them for the national team in terms of the men's side of things. In terms of the men's side, future goals and ambitions, um, what's on the horizon there in terms of qualifying for events within the ICC for the men's team? Do you think the men's team can definitely rise through the ranks and hopefully be on the biggest stage in a global tournament in the near future?
Well, I'm not, I'm optimistic, but near future is might be very optimistic. However, we define near now,
Yeah.
but we have the potential, and we need to start to develop from an early age. So I am hoping that with an investment, with a pending investment, that is coming for cricket, we will be able to achieve that. But as for example, we were preparing to go to Argentina, and there are players that needed to quit their job or to get time off their job so that they could go. And a couple of them had families. They are young guys in their 20s, early 20s, have a family. So how do you go and you are giving up your income to go, and there is no compensation for your loss of time and so on. So it's challenging, and in Belize we don't have that extent of sponsorship that we can draw from to support these people. So I guess with the pending investment, that kind of um, of situation can be resolved, and because we are thinking about putting our national players in an area, in a training camp where they can be there, they can be supported and everything, so that we can be competitive, more competitive in the region and internationally.
Yeah.
So the male team, I think we are on track, and we have some systems in place and some activities that will help us to achieve that level of excellence among our senior players.
Yeah.
But we need great more support.
Yeah, definitely. That's the biggest challenge facing a lot of associates, is that, backing and funding and, money to make things happen and develop systems and pathways that are strong in terms of developing excellence, as you said, Roy, and professionalism, which is something that many teams strive for. John, your thoughts on that? Would you like to add on to what Roy said there?
Well, I think Roy covered quite a bit of it, and like what I was saying earlier, that is one of our biggest obstacles that we are facing in cricket right now. If we could get the opportunity whereby we could hold our team together, give them a stipend on a weekly basis, and having those teams there, representing us, um, training. Um, I think we would be able to get into the major leagues, and definitely our aim of getting a couple of the guys into the West Indies team, I think that would be quite possible. But because we are not at that level right now, um, we cannot have our very very best players together. As Roy rightly said, they have families and they have to sustain the families, and that is one of the drawbacks that we would have. That we would have. Um,
Yeah.
we also have employers who may not be completely on board with cricket, and they will not give their employees time off with pay to represent Belize. Also.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. Excuse me. Definitely a lot of challenges that they face, and it's a juggling act, really. And I think all parties will have to try and make it work, and see what they can do going into the future. In terms of the men's team, in terms of the age range, give us an idea of how old the players are. Have you got young players coming through or players who are a bit older? So just talk
I
us through
think
about that.
the age profile, if I may answer that, we can have players and anything around from from 18 to maybe about 28, 30 years thereabout.
Yeah.
Those are the players that we find are more capable of maximum performance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would
Definitely.
say 18 to about 28, 30 years.
Yeah.
With most of the guys being on the younger side, it
Yeah.
will only be a couple of them which would be around 28, 30 years.
Yeah. So that must be a good thing, that to know that there are younger players stepping up from the ranks and participating in the national team. You must be very optimistic with the young talent coming through, especially in the men's side of things.
Yes, we're very happy with that, and that is why we are trying to go to the school level and making sure that we have others coming up through the system.
Yeah. Fantastic to hear that. Let's talk about the women's team. Tell us about them and how they're embarking on their journey representing Belize in cricket. So just tell us a bit more about the women's team, some of their stories and the players, and what they do.
Well, we have been trying to promote women cricket in the country. I think when we started 5 years ago, we made a difference. We organized a team, and we took that team to Costa Rica, and we for a winter tournament, and we won that. And then came COVID, so that was December of 2019, and then came COVID in 2020, and so that slowed down our effort on that side. And after COVID, we have been going to Atlanta to participate in a tournament there. It's not an ICC sanctioned tournament, but it gives our girls exposure. So again, because in our communities, where in the Belize River Valley, these ladies, they play softball, so they have the basic skills already, and they have quote unquote power. They can hit a ball hard, so so um, it's a natural fit for them in terms of playing cricket, and they have been also following the game all throughout their lives. And also, some of them would have played what we call button cricket in school. Um, so we have that, and then we have each year we have a female competition, and we typically have like 7 teams. We are trying to reach the threshold for ICC to qualify for international outings, and for that we need 8 teams. Um, so what we are doing this year is to go into the schools, and we are organizing girls so that we could participate in the World Cup 2027 for girls U19. So we are targeting those who are 14, 15, and so on now, so that when 2027 comes around, they'll be ready to play. And with that, that's gonna give us the um, the the bump to have eight eight teams playing, so we can qualify. So currently we have female competition going. We played those games on Sundays. So the males play on Saturday, actually Saturday and Sunday, and the females they play on Sunday. So this week is gonna be I think the third week of that competition for females. So in May, the females are going to go to Atlanta to play in that tournament. But we are trying for them to go to play in Costa Rica. So Costa Rica is hosting the Central American Championship this year, and it's going to be for males and females. So we really want to participate in that tournament. Likewise, we like to participate in a tournament in Argentina, where they will for females. And again, that is organized by the Americas, and that is to promote female activities for the region. Because unlike the other regions, we don't have that much activities, female activities. So we don't get credit. Our scorecards are not moving because we are lacking in that area. So the more outings we have and the more games we play, the better for the region and the better for the individual countries. So, but as John echoed too, financing is an issue for us. So how do we afford to send even one team to Costa Rica? You see, because again, corporate sponsorship is very limited, and ICC funding is also very limited. If we use ICC funds to participate in such a tournament, then we don't have anything for development. We don't have anything for anything else. So it's a significant challenge for us to try to accomplish all that we want to achieve. Because we are, as I said before, we are going into the schools, and even that come next Friday, we have coaches going into the schools in the other districts to share the game with kids from the other districts, and that costs. So, but going back to the female, we are moving. We have young girls coming through. There's a high level of interest, and so your friend that came, Jennifer, is it Jennifer?
Jenny Thompson.
Jenny could have seen that when she was here. She played the game too with the girls, and the interest is here. But again, it's how do we need support from all. And as you might know, once we get the females out, you can get the males out, and once you get the females out too, you get the whole family out. And so that's a strategy that we are using to grow the game.
Yeah. Fantastic. That's good to hear. All that good work that you're doing with the women's team, and very optimistic about the future of the women's game in Belize, which is fantastic. John, your thoughts on the women's team? Are you optimistic about the future of the team going forward?
Of course. Both teams, the women team, as well as the male, I'm pretty much optimistic about it. And if we could get that one obstacle worked out, whereby we can hold the team together to practice together every day under the guidance of an excellent coach, I think the future of Belize cricket the sky will be the limit for Belize cricket, both in male and in female.
Yeah, absolutely. And Roy, are you optimistic that the women's team can hopefully, one day qualify for a women's T20 World Cup or any ICC event that's on the horizon in the years to come? Are you optimistic about that?
Well, just a while you said about the near future, I would use it now
Yeah.
to say that the females are likely to achieve that level of participation in the near future.
Yeah.
And when we had the Central American Championship tournament in Belize last year, the players from MCC helped us in coaching young people. And it was very impressive how some of the girls, the young girls, 13, 14, 15, were bowling and batting. So I think we have the talent, and we just need to work on developing those. So I think, yes, in the near future, that should happen. And I will whisper that not that many countries have are able to field a women's team. So it's like the competition then is not as aggressive as the male.
Yeah. Fantastic. It's good to hear that. And yeah, hopefully they can make it to an event in the near future, as you said. And hopefully the men can as well. At the moment, both teams don't play a lot of cricket as it is. Would you like to see that number increase with other countries asking Belize to come and tour them amongst the associate nations? Would you like to see more tours and more series played?
Well, the opportunities are there, but it's for us to access those opportunities. So, like in April, there will be the Central American. I think it's September or November. It's gonna be the tournament in Argentina.
Yeah.
So, and then we are always talking to Mexico to have bilateral tournaments. But again, it's the resources. How are we going to get there? How are they going to get here? And
Yeah.
those kinds of logistics, no?
Mm.
So right now, Costa Rica is wanting to come to Belize, but again, we were exploring um, accommodation for them because accommodation in countries are expensive. So we don't have any hostel, for example, in Belize that they could, you know, come and stay at reasonable costs. So we have to explore other options. So the point though is that it's not because so much the opportunities are not there, it's because of how do you finance those opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. That's definitely a big challenge that many associate countries have. In terms of grounds, like where the national teams play their games in Belize, can you just tell us about, the type of grounds that you have in Belize?
But we have all the grounds are turf. We have one synthetic ground, and that belongs to the defense force. But yeah, all the fields are turf. Some of the fields are, they were historical locations in communities, so they are not all the best for cricket. So some are moving away from what was to new sites, and so that is good. Um, but there's a constant um, move to upgrade fields. We have about 3 or 4 fields that would be playable for international matches, and so we are hoping with this investment that will come in, they will help to upgrade some of these grounds, along with the plan to develop new grounds.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
one of the things we got to do, we have to try to adapt the international grounds,
Yep.
because many of the pitches that we are playing on right now is clay pitch, and we're trying our best right now. Some of the grounds they're trying to produce a turf to
Yep.
play on, um, and that caused the ball to get a little more lively. It caused the
Mm.
ball to come at a different height as opposed to the clay pitch.
Yep.
So I think once we can accomplish those two, we will be developing our cricketers even further.
Yeah. I
I think
couldn't agree.
yeah, I really appreciate John bringing that up, because of the quality of the pitches, the batters in a lot of cases they can't bat comfortably
Mm.
because there is not a high level of consistency in terms of the movement of the ball.
Yeah.
So a ball might pop up over your head. I mean, not because of the way the ball is bowled, but because of the ground.
Yeah.
So it's that if you have consistency in that, they would be able to perform even better.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. I couldn't
Yeah,
agree more.
because with the clay pitch, we get a lot of freak balls.
Mm.
What we call them here in Belize, we call them shutters, and 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 that does not do well. That does
Yeah.
not bode well with the cricketers. When they these cricketers would go and play, maybe in the States or so, it's a different type of batting that they have to do.
Yeah.
Uh, but
Definitely.
in Belize, you tend to hold your bat down. So that is one of the things we can do to improve cricket without any kind of great input, just with those turf.
Definitely. Definitely. I think better pitches, as you said, would lead to better cricket in terms of the batting side of things, and batters being able to adapt to different conditions which they may encounter in different countries. So that's vitally important in a development of a cricket team, in terms of those variables in the game. Um, but it was good to hear your insights on both of the teams and their stories and the players' stories, and what the women's and men's teams are doing in the near future as well, and what they've achieved thus far. And I think you should be proud of what you've achieved thus far, because you've come a long way, and there's still more to come in terms of improvement and getting better and competitive and building that up. But I think everyone would wish the national teams in Belize all the best, and I certainly do, because we want to see them prosper and be competitive, and rise up the ranks in the associate world, and hopefully make it to ICC events and qualify, and make the people of Belize proud. And I'm sure all the players representing both the women's and men's team certainly feel that sense of pride representing the country, of course, and wanting to play for Belize, and people following them, being role models for people as well to take up the game, which is fantastic. That's what you want to see from a national team, and definitely we're seeing that in Belize, which is fantastic to hear. Um, and yes, hopefully a lot of success to come in the future. Hopefully, um, we shall wait and see in the years to come. But definitely, the future is bright for the national teams in Belize. Definitely for both women's and men's. You've already highlighted some of them in this chat, Roy and John. So it was fantastic to hear your insights on the two teams and how they're tracking along, which was fantastic to hear. I thought we now talk about the growth and development of cricket within Belize, Roy and John, and in terms of getting cricket into local communities, clubs, schools, and grassroots, etc. And we've already touched on this a little bit in our chat thus far, and I thought we'd talk about it in more greater depth here. And as you mentioned, Roy and John, one of the challenges that many associate nations have is how they introduce cricket into the community and promote it. That's easier said than done. It's not an easy task, and it's something that all associate countries have to face. But as an association, Roy, you being the president and John being the vice president as well, you must ask yourself a lot of these questions. How do we try and get cricket into the community? How do we establish grassroots cricket, establishing local clubs in local communities? How do we establish competitions and pathway systems, underage comps, to build up the talent going into the national teams? And how do we have access to facilities like nets, grounds, as we've mentioned, for people to access in their local area as well? Because they may not have a cricket net or a pitch to play in their local area. They have to make do with what they have. Whereas in other countries like Australia, you can just walk down to the park and there's a cricket field, there's a net. Whereas in other countries like Belize, you don't quite have that. So how do you incorporate that into communities? And also making cricket accessible for everyone, so everyone can access the game via on TV or streams if they're watching the national teams or they just want to play for their local community. And as you touched on already, Roy and John, getting cricket into the schools and developing programs there. So there's a lot of questions to ask and answer, and they're often difficult.
So Roy and John, what challenges does the Belize National Cricket Association have in trying to grow and develop cricket in Belize in the community? And do you see cricket becoming a mainstream sport in Belize anytime soon? Some thoughts on that, Roy and John?
I'm not hearing.
I'm not hearing anything at all.
Oh, you're not. Oh, some technical.
Yes.
difficulty.
No, yes.
Oh, there we go. Now we're back. So I'll repeat that question. So Roy and John, what challenges does the Belize National Cricket Association have in trying to grow and develop cricket in the Belize community? And do you see cricket becoming a mainstream sport in Belize anytime soon? So your thoughts on that?
You want to go first, John?
I would say we have quite a bit of challenges there because, especially introducing into the non-cricket schools, because many of the schools are traditionally playing other sports as the main sport, and cricket would be another sport unto them. The challenges could be with the cost of the gears, because the cost of gears to introduce into a school, to introduce cricket into the school is exorbitant as compared to that of playing a football. Just with a football or even with the basketball. And while cricket will definitely take on some momentum in the schools as such, I would not want to say at this time that it's going to be the dominant sport, say within the next 5 years or so.
Yeah,
it will definitely take on a lot of momentum, but when it takes on that momentum, people will not just drop their traditional sport and just go to play cricket. They will want to do it as a combination.
Yeah, definitely. Roy, your thoughts on the challenges ahead for the association trying to grow and develop the game in the community in Belize? Your thoughts?
Yeah, the challenges include first trying to get into the schools, because again there's a quote unquote huge cost to get into the schools, because we got to move the coaches, and we have to have equipment for the schools. For example, right now ICC is supporting us. In addition to their regular support, they're giving us $2,000 worth of equipment for us to use in the schools, because we have a program that we have designed to introduce cricket to non-playing communities in the Kaya district and in the Range Rock districts.
Yep.
And so they recognize that we are doing a good job, so they're giving us that support. But still, there's the additional cost to again to move the coaches, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the challenge. Another challenge could be overcome this way, that we have a competition in the Belize River Valley, our main competition, annual competition. Now, the more we bring excitement to that competition, the more other communities. So when we started, we had like 11 or 12 teams. Now we are up to 18 teams playing in the senior male competition, right? And so every year there is interest, another community say, hey, we want to bring a team to participate in the tournament. So it is growing that way. But we have to do things to excite people to want to be a part of. And I think we're doing a good job of that, because of the number of teams we're having and the addition of teams.
Yeah.
Now, once we have that going on, we have we have the activities in the school. We for us, a lot of the the teams have difficulty in acquiring or getting equipment, because for us it's very costly. A bat costs like 200 plus US dollars, right? And so most players don't have their personal equipment. It's just that the team has a set of equipment, and again, it's hard to get sponsorship for. So the challenge then is to get equipment for the teams. Also, in some cases, to get time off for players, because the game is played on a Saturday typically, and some players work on a Saturday. So we have been trying to work with employers to give their players time off.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the grounds too, it's somewhat quote unquote burdensome for the teams to prepare well their grounds, because when the rainy season comes, the grounds are abandoned, so to speak. Huh? So until January, when the dry season starts and when the cricket season should start, then people start working on their field again. So there is no constant maintenance of the ground. So as Mr. Gillett said, these are basically clay pitches that that you play on. We call them turf. A couple of them really have turf, but for the most part, they're clay pitches.
Yeah. Definitely. That is a big challenge. And how do you prepare those pitches up to scratch, and that funding and money coming in as well from the ICC? Do you have a good
So,
relationship with the ICC Americas?
yes, we do. We have a very good relation, and they are very supportive. They are very supportive of our effort.
Yeah,
So we must applaud them for their support.
yeah. Do you think that the ICC in general are doing a good job in terms of promoting and supporting associate nations, or do you think they can do a better job overall in terms when it comes to
We
supporting
well
associate nations?
we think we should get more funding from them, because we are of the opinion that most of the fundings are going to the full members,
Yeah,
and we are just getting a very small percentage. And so we should be getting more, because we need to grow, right?
yeah,
So once we demonstrate that effort and we could see the changes, then more should be given. Huh?
yeah,
And we had mentioned something about trying to grow the game. We also live stream some of our games so that people in the diaspora could enjoy our games, and also for us to try to develop interest, and for the corporate um, market to try to come on board more
yeah.
for us.
Definitely, definitely. I couldn't agree more there, Roy. John, your thoughts on the ICC in terms of their job of promoting and supporting associate nations? What are your thoughts on what they can do better?
Well, I think what ICC could do, if they could send if they could send coaches here in Belize,
Mm,
more more coaches here in Belize, more people to train. And as Doc rightly mentioned, I think when it comes to the financing, they should be able to do better than what they're doing for us, because if we want to grow, we must have the resources so that we can spend on cricket in Belize, and in spending these resources on cricket, that is what is going to develop the sport.
yeah,
So yes, I think with coaches, um, trainers, and everything, and also the improved financing, we should be able to do much better.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Do you have coaching courses there? The ICC provides some coaching courses as well. Has anyone from Belize ever taken up a coaching course to become a?
You see what I'm showing you now?
Yeah, yeah, um,
So these are coaches that did the coaching course. So we have
yeah,
Cricket West Indies that did a tournament for us, coaching, and then we have these people who did ICC coaching course.
yep,
Um, so these are some. So we put their certificates in frames, and we give them. So we have, yeah, we have a lot of people who have done the ICC coaching course. So
yep,
we are not we are not short of that, because we have access to that, because the foundation course we had, like, for example, for the coaching we had like 20 something, I think 21 or 22 people who did the foundation course, and then
yeah,
ICC came to Belize and they did the level one practical um, assessment for coaches. I think they did like 13 or so coaches. So the ICC is always willing to, once we have the critical mass, no,
mm,
to send somebody. So one of the issues we are having right now is umpiring. So
Yes.
we are short of umpires. And so how do you get umpires? How you get persons to be umpires? Because
Mm.
the compensation is not much, and the criticism and the whatever is great. So the fans and so on will get on the umpire's case, and in Belize we currently pay our umpires like $37 US.
Yep.
So that's not much. So they are doing it a lot for the love, and that for that also they have to get to the grounds.
Mm.
So, but we can't afford anymore because if we multiply the number of games that we have, more than half of the funds that we get from ICC will just go to umpires.
Yep.
So then what do we do for development?
Mm.
So it's a challenge for us.
Yeah, definitely a big challenge indeed. That's another question I would like to ask both of you is that with cricket being in the Olympics now, which will benefit associate nations, what sort of an impact will that make in Belize in terms of having cricket in the Olympics? Will it make much of an impact or very little?
It will make a lot of impact because a lot of people will have that as a goal to participate in the Olympics. And once we go and we participate and we do well, we will leverage that achievement to get more people to participate in the game, more exposure to the game, more corporate sponsorship, and so on. And the young people in the schools could have goals to participate in the Olympics. So once I'm a good cricketer, I want to go to the Olympics.
Yep.
And so I think that will add a lot. It will be a great impetus for cricket in Belize.
Yeah, definitely. Has the government invested a lot of money into that? Because usually when and a sport becomes an Olympic sport, there's often more funding that's being put in by the government. So is that the case in Belize?
That would be the case to some extent, yes. And we have the Belize Olympic Committee. So the Olympic Committee will support. We got support financially from the Belize Olympic Committee this year. Well, last year. So they are beginning to support the sport.
Yeah, definitely good to hear that. John, your thoughts on cricket's inclusion in the Olympics and the impact that will make on
Well,
cricket in Belize?
if if you ever want the full support of anybody in Belize for cricket, if we would put a team together and go and perform there, very good. I think that would be a big stepping stone
Yeah,
towards the development of cricket in Belize. It is one of these sports, I'm sure, if the Belize Olympic Committee would say, all right, they want to include it, I am sure our youngsters would be happy to jump on that. And definitely the Belize National Cricket Association would also lend its full support on that there. So I think that is a good initiative to include cricket in the Olympics.
yeah, definitely. It's definitely a big game changer in associate cricket,
Yeah.
and a lot of associate nations have said the same thing. Um, in terms of sponsors, you mentioned that, Roy. I did hear something about an investor wanting to invest in Belize cricket and wanting to build a stadium in Belize or something like
Maybe you can tell us a bit more on that.
Went mute again.
I think he's on mute. Technical difficulties with Roy. Roy, hello, Roy.
Yes,
Yeah. Did you hear what
I'm
I?
here.
Yeah. Did you hear what I said?
No.
Basically, what I said was about the private investor that wanted to build a stadium in Belize. Could you share a bit more about that? That's something that I heard.
Yeah, we have this group that wants to um, help us develop cricket in Belize, and the goal is to build a stadium, um, and for us to play more international cricket.
Yeah.
And so with us inviting countries to come to play in Belize. So for us, for that to be successful, we have to start again with the 3-year old, 4-year old, 5-year old um, kids,
Yeah.
right? So start from the school and work your way all up to the high performance level. And so the goal is for us to be number one in Central America and in the top 3 or 4 or 5 in the Americas. And for us to have some of our players playing with Cricket West Indies, and eventually in the long run to have a Belize, a Belize team, so we could be a full member of ICC. Um, but yeah, so the investment would come. The first phase of the investment would be for us to develop the current facilities.
Yeah.
One, and two is to start a program, a developmental program in schools, in the primary schools and secondary schools, and so on.
Yeah.
Um, so that would be that's the, while those things are going on, so we have activities going on in the schools and in the communities,
Yeah.
along with the infrastructure outside. There, the investors have their own um, land,
Yeah.
and they will develop their land to have um, a five pitch field, so that again, let's say for example, now that the World Cup is going to happen, teams coming from Europe or from Africa could come to Belize for warm up games before they go to the US or they go to the West Indies.
Yeah.
And also we could host our tournaments. We could develop our own tournaments. That way our Belizean players again will be playing more, and we're talking about males and females, and we being the hosts need to be, and so yeah, so that's where we're heading with that activity.
Yeah, definitely. Good to hear that, Roy, and good to see that people are willing to invest into Belize cricket and wanting it to prosper and develop in the country. So that's fantastic to hear. And it was also fantastic to hear about what you're doing to grow and develop the game in Belize. And I think a lot of people will learn a lot about the difficulties with doing that from an associate point of view in the associate cricket world, and also realizing that many of us cricket fans who come from Australia, England, India, for example, the full members take a lot of things for granted, whereas in Belize you don't have access to a lot of the things that many cricket fans have in Australia or India or England. So it's good to have that perspective, and it's good that you're making some good progress. There's still a long way to go, of course, but the future is bright, and the game's certainly grown and developing, and people love the game, which is fantastic to hear, and long may that continue. Roy and John, I thought to talk about, for our next topic and for our last topic of discussion in this chat, I've enjoyed it immensely, and I'm sure everyone listening and watching has enjoyed it as well, and has certainly learnt more about cricket in Belize. So I thought to end on our chat today, Roy and John, I thought we'd talk about what the future holds for cricket in Belize. It's very hard to predict the future, as we know. The future can be very uncertain, but just a prediction of what you see, what the future's like going forward. So, Roy and John, how do you see Belize cricket and associate cricket going into the future? So your thoughts
I
and
can see I can see a lot of future for cricket in Belize.
Yeah.
The initiative that the current association is taking, and even if we have continuity of that, say, for example, if this association is is not re-elected, I think with the groundwork that has been set already, and people continue on the path that we have laid, I can see cricket going into the horizon within Belize, and that goes for both male and female cricket. The initiative, if you would look at the passion that these fans and supporters and also the players take into cricket on a weekly basis, then you will realize how impactful cricket is to the country of Belize. What I would want to see, I would want to see the development of cricket continue, so that very near down the road, we'll be able to be in that certain league, in that certain level, so the West Indies team can be recruiting players from Belize likewise.
Yeah.
We have the potential. It's only a matter of developing these guys and developing cricket to that extent in Belize, and we will be there.
Yeah.
So I can see a great future for cricket in Belize.
Yeah, definitely. Roy, your outlook on the future of Belize cricket and associate cricket?
Yeah, I see there's a bright future for Belize cricket, and it's also we have some good people at ICC Americas that are behind us. They work hard. They try to 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 help us as much as they can. We also have some other. We also have our own network among associate members in the Americas.
Yeah.
And so a few of us stand out because we have more time to dedicate to. Like the person from Bermuda is championing a lot of our efforts to bring greater things to associate members of the Americas. Um, I want to plug in here too that your listeners in Australia and elsewhere can, if they are cricketers, they have retired and so on, if they want a little vacation and want to make some contribution, they can come over to Belize and share their experiences and help our our coaches, our umpires, and give us as an association, help us give us guidance,
Yeah.
and that will help a lot. So, looking at the future, I am hoping that in the next um, 5 to 10 years, we're gonna have a couple of Belizeans playing on the West Indies team, and I think in the next 10 to 15 years, we are going to be a full member of, which in that structure is changing now too. All members will be one level, and well, at least that's the effort right now. But I'm hoping that we will be competing as a country in the next 10 to 15 years. And also in the next 5 or so years, we're going to see a lot of international games start playing in Belize. And again,
Yep.
that's going to bring visibility to us. It's going to grow the game and so on.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, that's a wonderful prediction there from you, Roy, and the future is bright in Belize, and cricket is bright there. And hopefully, we'll see Belize continue to develop and grow and be on the world stage, and people will take notice of Belize as a cricketing country, and will certainly lead the way when it comes to associate cricket as well, and achieve great things. And I'm sure the women's and the men's teams certainly do that. And also, it's good to see great people like yourself, Roy, and John working tirelessly to help the game in Belize. And your efforts have been much commendable. And what you're doing is a great job. And you're very passionate people, and you want what's best for the sport. So that's what it's all about. It's about having good leadership and passionate people who want to be a part of cricket, and certainly you, Roy, and John have certainly done that. So I think you should be proud of your efforts, no doubt. So wonderful to hear your predictions on the future and what lies ahead for cricket in Belize. Roy and John, thank you for joining me today for this Associate Cricket Series episode to discuss all things Belize cricket. I'm sure all of our listeners and watchers have learned a lot as well about cricket in Belize. Roy and John, if people want to get in touch with the association, they want to get in contact, where can people do that if they want to get in touch with you guys?
Okay, we have our email address, nature@btl.net. Let me say that slowly.
Yeah.
NATURER at B as in boy, T as in telephone, L as in love, .net. And we have a telephone number, +501 610 1375. Let me repeat that, 501 610 1375.
Yeah.
And Mr.
That is a
Dan,
WhatsApp number, right, Roy?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we'll leave links to those in the description of this episode for people to make contact if they feel like they want to make some inquiries. So we'll definitely leave that information in the description of this episode. Definitely for people who want to make contact with you, Roy or John, about cricket in Belize. Definitely. Before we go, remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure we get latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Also, the podcast is available on Anchor, Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts. Once again, thank you, Roy and John, for joining me today to discuss all things Belize cricket. I hope all of you watching or listening to this Associate Cricket Series episode learned a lot about cricket in Belize from Roy and John. Until next time, keep safe and bye for now.